Marc, I'm Dave from HeyUGuys. Thanks very much for the film. I absolutely loved it.
Oh,
Where
great.
did the story come from?
The story really came from, like a lot of films, it came from a sort of random conversation in a way with the producer, myself, John Finn. We were just talking about why don't the Brits make more films set in schools, actually? Simple as that, especially celebratory ones or sort of campus type films, you know, like the high school film. And this is a while back, before High School Musical was invented, and before, or at least before it came out, and before Glee came out. And John we were sort of talking about this, and John said, oh, it's probably because we don't get the weather, you know, really. So we started thinking about 76, and we started thinking about the music of 76, and that conversation developed into an idea about a film which is about that last summer of a generation of school kids, and you know, how really music is such a huge part of growing up in this country, and how great the music is in this country. So that's where the film came from, really.
And did Glee, obviously Glee was out from our American, was that an influence to actually get the film?
It wasn't actually. It's very funny because a few years ago, John and I also made a film called My Little Lie, which is based vaguely on the Big Brother idea. And we started making that film when Big Brother, we'd seen an article in the papers about it as a show in Holland before it became big. And it was bizarre, because when we made that film, at each stage of the film, Big Brother was growing as a phenomenon. With this film, we kind of, you know, quite honestly thought and talked about it before Glee was ever known to anybody. And I remember the point at which one of the people we were working with says, well, by the way, you should check out Glee, because, you know, they're not doing the same thing, but they're doing a similar thing, and of course it was huge. And the fact that Glee becomes huge, you know, gives you either a problem or an opportunity, doesn't it? You either go, oh, that's great because that kind of show works, or you go, oh, we're finished because that sort of show's done it. I don't know what effect it'll have on us, if any. So, you know, we didn't take too much notice of Glee from the point of view that it would have been wrong to then sort of try and absorb that and see how they did it. You know, we did it our own way, really.
Yeah, and this film's set in a heat wave of 76, like
yeah.
you say. What were some of the challenges of filming in Wales in 2011 or whenever it was?
Yeah, well, the challenge of Wales always is the weather, you know, and 1976 is a mythical hot year for a reason. That is, it's never happened since, and may never happen again. It was really hot, I remember it, and it wasn't really hot when we were shooting it, and we just ended up watching the skies all the time, you know, seeing whether the clouds are coming over the Swansea Bay or not, and trying to schedule around it. And you can't fake sunshine, actually, very easily. You can a little bit indoors, but not outside. So we just had to kind of chase the weather in the 35 days we had to shoot the film, you know. And
there's a scene at the Lido as well. And am I right in saying you got the fire brigade in to estimate how much water it got emptied, didn't it, for various reasons?
It did. The Lido was disused, and we had to fill it ourselves with water, and the fire brigade did that. It was sort of it's interesting because we never quite filled it, but then we reckoned it was a drought, so perhaps the Lido was a bit short on water anyway. I don't know if you noticed, but it's not quite to the top.
I didn't notice until I looked at the production notes after. Minnie is fantastic in the film, as are the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
Was Minnie originally in your mind to play that role of Vivian?
Minnie, the way it worked was once we started thinking about Minnie, we couldn't get her out of our heads. That's what it was. And it's not just the fact that she's amazing at accents or that she's brilliant at singing, but it's something about her spirit as a person, her sense of humour, her allure, you know, as a person is really strong, and I just thank God we got her, really, because you know, apart from anything else, she nailed the accent, and I've got to go back and show this film in Wales, and if she hadn't, you know, there'd be trouble. But everybody was was amazed how she kind of inhabited the role, and also from my point of view and from the film's point of view, it was amazing how she connected with the kids. The kids loved her, you know. I think it shows.
And the kids are amazing as well. The cast is just fantastic. How did you come across some of these brilliant new talent?
Well, we did the casting the old-fashioned way. We just put up notices, you know, notice boards, or the modern version of a notice board, which is in you know, on Facebook or something. And we held open auditions. We held auditions in colleges and schools, and some of those kids came from saw them straight away in one of the first auditions. Aneurin Barnard, who plays Davy, was still a student at the Welsh College of Music and Drama. Since we cast him, he got an Olivier for his performance in Spring Awakening, a big West End show here. So, you know, that kind of confirmed that we had good taste. But then, you know, Christian, who plays Hoople, we didn't find him till 2 weeks before shooting, because we still couldn't find a drummer who could act, you know, and thank God we found him. But so it was a long, hard process. And then, of course, there were all the kids in the orchestra. So we had to find kids who wanted to be in a film and in an orchestra and make this kind of music, which they which they did. You know, they made the music themselves, which is amazing.
It must have been a big challenge because there's so many scenes, especially in the school hall, where there's just so many people in there. Was it a challenge for you as a director to sort of manage what everybody was doing?
That's a good point. Management was, you know, was part of the deal in terms of directing. It was just a lot of people in it, you know. But what's brilliant is I had a brilliant musical director, Joby Talbot. So the orchestra, in a way, once they're playing, know what they're doing always. So the biggest challenge with the orchestra was get them to be themselves in between picking up the bow or starting to play the piece and finishing is the bits in between, you know, just to be themselves. And then again, Minnie was pivotal in that because you set up a scene, you know, you start to play the scene, and in a way, what she has to do is not just act, but kind of control the room. Mm. You know, she has to be that teacher for the length of the scene, and she did it. It's amazing. So once that was happening, I felt much easier about directing it because it was kind of a case of observing what was going on as opposed to micromanaging it. You know.
Yeah. It looked like an awful lot of fun to film.
It was great fun. It was really good fun.
Did you have a teacher like Minnie's character Vivian when you were at school? Like, did she come from
Minnie's really a sort of a combination of lots of teachers, is the truth of it, and is the spirit of a kind of teacher that we all came across. I did some youth theatre and stuff when I was a kid, and there was just this kind of, there were these people around who could inspire and galvanise and bring people into an activity, especially teenagers who are kind of notoriously happy to sit in their room with their headphones on, you know, sort of in their own world. So she's really a tribute to the kind of teacher that inspires every generation, but in particular I remember that in the 60s and 70s there was a tradition of teaching that was sort of kind of all about self-expression and you know, bringing Shakespeare to the kids. You know, how do you get kids involved in this stuff? So she's a sort of amalgamation of a lot of teachers that we all were touched and affected by, you know.
Cool. Well, I really enjoyed the film, and I can't wait for everyone else to see it when it comes out.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.